Hey there, my name is Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about what to do with an unknown set. Now, you've probably heard the word Sett, S-E-T-T. It refers to the spacing in between the warp yarns in your project. And this is a very important number because it helps establish some of the foundation of your project. If the set is too close or too far together, you may not have the right texture or hand of the project, or the pattern may not even show the way you like it to. So Sett is kind of an important number. But say you are looking through your stash and you find this beautiful yarn. And you're thinking, nice and sturdy, I think this will be great for the warp. But I have no idea what size it is. So how do I space this? How do I determine the ends per inch or the set for this yarn? So in today's episode, I'm going to give you a couple things to chew on and a couple visuals so that you can make an educated guess. And trust me when I say, friends, as a weaver, we make quite a few educated guesses. And that is all good. Be brave, take a guess, and try it out. So let's start by talking about Sett. Let's say you wander over to your favorite weaving yarn store and you're shopping around and you pull up a cotton, let's say. Now with that cotton, there's gonna be all kinds of details about the fiber itself. And one of the details will be what is the recommended set, S-E-T-T, or EPI, sometimes it'll say either one, ends per inch. And it'll give you a range. It'll say 8 to 12. And what that tells you is that if you were doing a plain weave, you want your yarn spread a little farther apart. Therefore, the lower number is for plain weave, so 8 ends per inch. However, if you're doing a twill, you want them a little closer together. So 12 is the number to aim for a twill. Now, are those always and forever the right sets for those? Depends on the project. You gotta be a little flexible, but if you need a starting point, that is what that tells you, that range. 8 to 12. The lower number is plain weave, the higher number is twill. Great. So where does that leave us here with our unknown fiber? Well, first of all, we need to decide what spacing do we want. If you're gonna do plain weave, then we need a spacing that's a little farther apart, a little more room in between our warp yarns. But if we're doing a twill or a project that requires a twill threading, we want them to be closer together. So here's what I've done. I took my 8/4 cotton and I actually spaced it as I would in the real world. And I put it up against a ruler so you could see what the spacing looks like. And that'll give you some gauge as to what you're aiming for when or if you have an unknown fiber that you need to determine the spacing. So let's do the twill first. Now for this fiber, I would use 12 ends per inch. So look at this picture. Now do you see that we've got like one yarn and then about the space of another yarn and then one yarn and space. So they're not shoulder to shoulder, because if they were, we wouldn't see any of the weft, and that's not good. We need room for the weft to come in there. So for our twill spacing here at 12 ends per inch, then we have just enough room for like one more yarn in there, right? You got the visual? Great. Let's talk about plain weave. Now plain weave needs to be even a little farther apart. So this one is almost, what, a yarn and a half? Almost 2 yarns in between each one, but there's some real room there because we want to make sure that for plain weave, we have even more space for the weft to really show up in our project. Now this I have set at 8 ends per inch. And you can see that the differences, I'll be honest, they're pretty subtle. However, if you are starting from a big question mark, this is a great thing to watch out for, because then you can take your trusty ruler and take your yarn and be like, okay, if I wind this around 1 inch, how much room do I have? Make a guess. Start with that for your project. Now, I've had instances when even my best guess was a little bit crazy. Once upon a time, I did an undulating twill project for a weave along, you know which one, and I had to go back to the beginning and really make them even closer together. But friends, those are kind of the exception, not the rule. If you're doing a twill, for the most part, you want them to be like 1 yarn and a space for a yarn, and 1 yarn and a space for a yarn. That's pretty much the spacing that is going to serve you well. So the bottom line is, make your best guess, make some observations on your project, and then tweak it for next time. You'll be golden. But I hope this was helpful as far as having a visual and thinking through the steps for how do I go from here to accurately spacing this in my project. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to space an unknown fiber and you underestimated or overestimated? Have you ever had that happen? Oh, friends, let me tell you some stories. But let me know in the comments if you have had some challenges with spacing, and we'll all commiserate together. For the most part, friends, get out your ruler, plan for a little room in between each yarn. You'll be sitting pretty. All right, my friend, have a wonderful week. Happy weaving.